welcome to the FCI A2O Rapid Fire interviews, where I have a chat with well-known personalities in our dog world for us all to get to know them a bit better. How Rapid Fire works is I ask a series of short questions to our invited guests in the hope they will tell us more about themselves, and through the course of the Rapid Fire interview, we get to know them better. All episodes of our shows are available on the A2O FCI Asia, Africa, and Oceania section Facebook page as they are launched, and previous episodes are available for you to watch at any time. So if you missed out on any, please feel free to catch up on them. The idea for this show came about during the COVID-19 pandemic, which saw many of us isolated at home. And so these Zoom interviews came about as a way to have fun, get to know each other better, and more importantly, to stay connected. Today, I have the pleasure and honor of having a chat with a good friend of mine, Sean Delmar, all the way from Ireland. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Hello, Gopi. Nice to be talking to you.
You too. How's things going?
Things are okay. I think we're all a little bit stressed out with this COVID-19, but I tell you one thing, I'm seeing more of my grandchildren, even if it is from a distance, than I have done in normal times. And also not being judging away, you actually are reunited with a lot of families. So there's positives to it as well.
Absolutely. And Sean, you've mentioned this, so I'd like to jump in. And I mean, I know that we're recording this interview today in the middle of May, but it won't be aired for maybe a week or two. But you guys, the Irish Kennel Club, have just made the decision to cancel all events till the end of the year. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, what drove that decision, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, okay. I know it's a difficult decision to make to wipe your calendar out like that, but we felt that firstly, it's really a health issue, and on the best advice available and the situation we are, I think we're better to err on the side of caution. Who would like to have people getting involved in organizing events and spending money, booking judges, exhibitors, and then the thing flares a little bit and you have to cancel everything again? I think it's better for everybody that their mindset is, the slate is clean, and we will start again then when we all feel safe. I think it also gives a chance for us as organizers to put in place new procedures for running events, and get them tested and tried out and secure and everybody used to them before we actually just dive in. And so it's like jumping into the swimming pool and then say, oh, I can't swim. So let's kind of try and get that all right first. So that's the thinking behind it. There's a possibility maybe that we could run some field trials, which are self-isolating by their nature. Or other small events, but for the moment anyway, we've just put a cancellation on it. Another aspect of it is that a lot of our outdoor shows are run in soccer fields or sports fields, and they have their own issues as well. So just to give a bit of clarity, wipe a slate clean, we figured that was the best way.
Okay, and if I may ask, you mentioned doing a little bit of field trials and things. What other activities is the Irish Kennel Club planning to do to keep things ticking over, to keep connected with members, that sort of thing?
The first thing, and this was driven from our members, and it was a public reaction by the Irish Kennel Club to the national crisis. We set up some groups in a county by county here in Ireland with local dog people and clubs, our members, manning them, and put the word out in the community, anyone who needs any help or aid, or older people who need access or medicine, that we would try and organize, or older people who wanted their dogs walked. We kind of sent a network of people all over Ireland doing that by our own members who voluntary off their own better. So we did that for a fact. A lot of our members are running the usual virtual shows. Some clubs are doing that for various charities, and also webinars, seminars, and like you're doing now, interviews with various people, this type of thing, just to keep in touch and to keep active.
Okay, fabulous. I mean, if I may just say, I think a lot of people could take a leaf out of the Irish Kennel Club. I mean, you guys seem to have, Ireland as a country, in my opinion, seems to have been handling this crisis in terms of information and steps taken, very clear, very concise. And I think the Irish Kennel Club, from what I've been following, has been one of those organizations that has from the outset kept members informed and made some excellent decisions, I feel, because you know, I know it's not easy to cancel the whole year, and you know, with watching what's going on in other countries where people are desperate to get back, I think it's kudos to you guys, and you know, a brave decision, and hopefully we can all restart a bit sooner, you know, God willing. So.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Irish as a race, we're so small a country and an island that anybody with a boat actually invaded us at some stage or another. So we have two things. We're used to change. We adapt well to change, whether it was the euro, whether it was FCI, no matter what. People are surprised how quickly we can adapt and change. And that's because of the invasions and the Vikings and the Normans and whoever. That we just got used to adapting and changing. So we're good at that. And the fact we have a big suspicion of authority also, the Irish in general have that, they have a suspicion. So there's no question of you ramming anything down or using your superior kind of position to make anything happen in Ireland. You must bring them with you, and then they'll support you and it'll work for you. But if you try and buddy the Irish, you get nowhere. You just get mayhem. So that's what, but they're usually very good, provided you don't treat them like idiots. You give them the accurate information as much as you can. They'll come with you, and they're very supportive, and they have been through this whole thing.
Excellent, excellent. As I said, your Prime Minister has been an example to follow of how he's handled this whole thing, and you know, kudos to the Irish Kennel Club as well. So well done, guys.
Yeah. We have actually got Dr. Tony Houlihan, who is the head of our medical organization. He's been very concise and very correct, gives a briefing at 5 o'clock every day. That's televised. And total update, as much information as possible, and admission where the answers aren't there, straightforward admission, no hiding beneath the door. So it's been very informative and very good. And listen, we're getting there.
Excellent, excellent. All right, let's move on with the interview. Sean, if you could be any kind of wild cat, what would it be and why?
Wild cat or animal? Do I have to be a cat?
Well, an animal then. As you asked, you're a nice guy.
Well, I can tell you the one thing I don't want to be, and that's a male emperor penguin. I will not spend 4 months shivering up in the Antarctic, sitting on an egg, waiting for the girls to come home from work. I don't. It's just not me. An animal. I like some of the big cats. They're very serene, I think. Yeah. The lion too much. I think he's too lazy, letting the girls do all the work, and then he comes in and throws around. I admire the silverback gorillas too. I think they have a sense of control and family, and they care and they look after their people and they have empathy. But I suppose maybe a leopard.
A leopard, okay.
Yeah. Maybe one who could change its spots now and then.
Trust you to say that. All right, round the world business class trip, a business class ticket, or a trip to Mars?
Trip to Mars.
Okay.
I think that's somewhere you could maybe only do once, right? Whereas around the trip, once you do one business class, listen, it's the same. I get the opportunity, okay, it's tourist class usually, but I get the opportunity to see many places all over the world. I'm blessed in that respect, and it's been a wonderful journey. So that would not be novelty. But the idea of going boldly where no man has gone before, as a matter of fact, just as you say this, it's funny you should say that. Sitting in the room, I might show it to you later, is a toy we found that my son Ross had when he was young, the Millennium Falcon. Complete. It's this size. I'll show it to you later on. But so we are going boldly where no man has gone before. Sorry, wrong series.
God forbid, if your house was on fire, what 2 things would you run back in to get?
Well, apart from people, obviously. What would I run to get? I have some old, very historical foundation of the Kennel Club memorabilia.
Wow.
I think they'd be the first things. The first yearbook.
Wow.
The first registrations of the Kennel Club. So they would be very precious to me. They're very close to me.
I'd say, wow. If you could be a typical Irish dish, what would you be and why?
Right. I suppose corned beef, cabbage, and potatoes. The reason for that would be corned beef. I like to think there's some substance in me that you'd be fairly kind of satisfied with me. Or that's the potato end of it. Corned beef. It is meat, yes, but there's a little spicy flavor added to it to give it that extra little bit of sparkle. And cabbage, salt of the earth, good earthy vegetable. And I thought those are the type of qualities I'd like to think that would be somewhere in the mix with me.
Excellent, excellent. If what's your favorite meal, Sean? What's your all-time favorite meal?
I do like a good steak. I really do. I'm not much for pasta. I don't really like pasta and nor rice. I'm very much old-fashioned Irish potato man. So potato with a green vegetable. And listen, as I said, the dish I'd like to be probably corned beef, cabbage, and potatoes. Actually, yeah, that would be my favorite.
Good. Do you cook?
Apparently not very well. I'm good on breakfast, so I'm more of a cafe cook than a restaurant cook. I'm quite good at breakfast, maybe a toasted sandwiches, things like that. I boil a mean egg, right? But as regards to anything more dramatic than that, yeah, I'd have a go, and I'd reasonably, but they probably wouldn't ask me again.
Okay. Okay, so I'll remember to make sure you don't cook if ever I come and stay. Yeah. Sean, what breed of dogs have you owned, and what are you currently still involved with as a breeder?
Yeah, my original breed is Kerry Blue Terriers. My father had Kerry Blue Terriers, my sister at one stage, and we were brought up involved in that all my life from the time I was a child. I was bitten before I could walk by a Kerry Blue. No, but really, no, it's been they're an amazing breed, and it's an amazing journey for me, and I have a real passion for that because so many things in my life tie into that. The foundation of the Irish Kennel Club was founded by a breed club, the Dublin Irish Blue Terrier Club, and they broke away from the British, ran their own show, and it was so successful just for the breed that people in other breeds said, why don't you run one for other breeds as well? And they did, and out of that was formed the Kennel Club. So that's a point to that. Also, the first chairman, president of the Irish Kennel Club was a justice of the peace, and a high court judge, and he had Kerry Blues also. So for me, there's a thread running right through, and I love their whole attitude, their whole history, and their place in Irish history. Love all that.
And do you still breed Kerrys, or?
We don't. No, my son, funny thing, when you're a long-term family, and people like to say so many generations in your family and so on, with that, for the newer generation coming up, there comes a big challenge, is to establish themselves individually. Absolutely. It took me a while because my father was in ahead of me, still exhibiting, and my sister, who was older than me, was exhibiting, and a good exhibitor too, and good looking. And then I came along, so I was down the pecking order, and then Kathy followed on. So when my son came along, he said, no way. He did for a while, but he's decided he would, furrow his own plough, and he got into smooth fox terriers, and they're his passion.
Okay, so you're not.
We have them now. He breeds them now and exhibits them now, and as a matter of fact, is very successful at it.
Okay, but you're not involved in breeding them, or I mean, it's his breed, and he's the one that decides. Or do you have a say in stud dogs and that sort of things, or?
Yeah, we're very much a team, I have to say, and I know it's probably a term that's used a lot, but Ross is our youngest son, and he's still at home, because we have quite large kennels down the back, and he has 2 apartments, but they're rented out, so he still stays at home with us. But he has an automatic kennel boy and kennel girl for when he needs it, So if he has to go away for whatever reason, there's cover. If we go away, there's cover as well. So listen, we're lucky that we have the best of both worlds. We still have here, we have dogs here, and we breed dogs still, and we exhibit dogs, and I judge dogs, and so on. So it's an ideal thing. And as regards to that, yes, we have a committee meeting nearly to decide on everything.
Okay,
Sean, I can tell you that it can be very, everyone has an opinion. You know my son Ross, you know me, and you know Kathy. No shrinking violets there. So the discussions and the comments can be very divisive, but usually overall in the end, I think the results are usually quite good.
Excellent, excellent. That helps you keep your finger in, I suppose. Does your position...
Sorry,
Sean,
one other thing I'd like to mention about that is that it does remind me, because I think if you divorce yourself from exhibiting and breeding and showing, and you become a judge and you get to the level where I'm so lucky to be in Albridge and traveling a lot, you need to be reminded that when you're looking at a dog and maybe you're going to give him a very good or a good, this guy could have got up at maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He traveled all over the way. His wife might be having an affair with the innkeeper down the road. He might have spent a fortune on imported semen that just went nowhere. And you're standing there, how disappointed you are with the quality of the breed. This is an expression I hate to hear. I was very disappointed with the quality of it. I hate to hear that. Everyone's doing their best with what they have, and you must have a bit of respect for it. And okay, you have to sometimes give bad news, but give it in as kind of way as you can.
I agree. I think it's, I've always said it's a privilege to judge other people's dogs. It's something that we're privileged to do. So Sean, in your position as the president of the Irish Kennel Club, and the Irish tend to be very forthright in their opinions. I mean, they're very direct. Do you find yourself having to remain neutral on controversial issues, in spite of how you feel, or do you tend to find a polite way to express your exact feeling about situations?
I wouldn't call myself now, I'm not very bitter, I'm not a wimp, and those guys that I've met and you've been at meetings with me, and if I have something to say, I like to say it. At the same time, I'm not silly, because you can talk yourself out of a job and then you're useless, you're no use to anybody. So there has to be a little bit of swaying, like the tree, not like, like a willow. You have to sometimes bend a little bit, but there comes a time when you have to stand up. You have to stand up and show leadership. There's a big balance between being strong and showing leadership, and making sure you hold on to the gig, because you're no use to anybody if you're thrown out. And at the same time, reacting to other people's opinion and realize that you're a figurehead there, and you just have to reflect their thoughts as well. So it's a complicated gig. You know that, and I'm sure everybody else knows it. And unless you love it, you wouldn't be doing it. And that's the whole difference. I like people, so I like to interact with them. I like to try and work with there and try and explain I just like the whole gig.
Excellent, excellent. All right, invisibility or super strength?
What super strength would I like?
No, would you like invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Okay.
I would not like to be. The worst thing in life for me is invisible. I think that's the worst thing. We are such a visual people, and we judge a lot on visual. And I would never. I know you could maybe be very voyeuristic if you're invisible and sneak around, but listen, no. I think most people, in their heart of hearts, they're peacocks. And what peacock wants to be invisible?
All right. If you had a genie in a lamp, what 3 things would you wish for? And you're not allowed to say 3 more wishes.
Okay, genie. Well, listen. I think we have to get the obvious out of the way. I think health for my family, health for me and my family. I think that's the first thing I would like. No, personal. That's the personal stuff out of the way. Stability for the future of the Irish Kennel Club, because I believe in that as an organisation. And what else? There must be something else. Inner peace.
Excellent. And talking of inner peace, how do you relax or how do you unwind?
I like some sports. I like to walk a bit. I tried, my brain unfortunately runs at too much speed for me to do much meditation. I tried it because my eldest boy believes in a lot of Buddhist cultures and meditation and all of that. And Kathy actually, when she was younger, did a lot of that. I tried it, but I don't seem to have the concentration for it, you know. I know all what you're supposed to do, and but my mind just gets too distracted. So I think I do that. Instead of that, I drink a couple of pints of Guinness.
I like your way of unwinding. Do you know any Spanish phrases, Sean?
Okay.
Well,
No,
that's
no,
good enough.
just the usual, you know, that nothing remarkable or nothing viristic. Funny thing though about Spanish and Italian in particular, that when I was young, for some reason or another, and mainly because we were a Catholic country and we were taught and by religious people, they taught us Latin. Now, I mean, instead of French or German, or they teach us Latin. So, I mean, we were getting the Irish language, which is not only useful in Ireland. We were getting Latin, which is, unless you go to Mass, really is very limited. So instead of, we could have been German and we could have been doing Spanish or we could have been doing French, which would have been really useful to us. But the one thing about, I have to say about Latin, it was interesting because I can pick up phrases and understand quite a lot of what Spanish and Italian are saying because of the phrases, and I can pick it up. And that's from the Latin, I think, you know.
Absolutely, yeah, because they were all Latin Romance languages. So yeah, so you pick them up. Okay, what's an issue in today's dog world that concerns you, Sean?
I think we don't do enough, and I know people are trying, and this is not a criticism, this is just a fact as far as I'm concerned. The promotion of pedigree dogs, still, the message has not landed, in my opinion. The Americans are doing more than anybody on it. The trouble is that they have a nation full of crazies, you know, and who are all over the place. So it's very hard to get any message across there. But they're just spending a lot of money and doing a lot of work on that, on the promotion of the benefits that pedigree dogs will bring to society. We over here, I'm doing a bit myself in the Irish Kennel. We're trying to promote that fact, do a couple of seminars and stuff on the benefits of pedigree and why you would have pedigree dogs and their value to society. Because there's an amazing value to society when you investigate it, from dogs with autism, cancer, sniffing out cancer, apart from the ones that we know already. So that's the big message that we're not getting out to the general public. The main reason you should have pedigree dogs is because they bring predictable qualities that are useful for serving mankind. And that's the big message. And we're not getting that out there. We don't spend enough time getting that message out there and explaining it to people. Because most people, when you sit down and talk to them about that, they get it. They understand, oh, I see, because it's predictable. Now, you can get a dog in the pound which might be a great dog and might be able to detect atomic war or whatever, but it'll be purely an accident if it is. Whereas the pedigree dog, chances of getting these type of qualities with specific purpose-bred dogs is much, much higher. And that's the benefit. That's what we bring to society.
Do you think kennel clubs do enough to liaise with governments in terms of getting them to understand about pedigree dogs and understand about committed breeders who are, you know, in a breeding program where they test and do all this versus people who are in it for commercial reasons?
I really don't think so, because if you look at the percentage of dogs, and this is worldwide, I saw surveys that maybe only 20% of dogs registered or owned in countries, usually less than 20%, are got from kennels of breeders or eschewed breeders. And the rest, the other 80% are got from puppy mills or commercial breeders, whatever you like to call them. Okay. Now, the trouble with that is that market is there. Yeah. That market is there, and it's going to be filled. People want dogs, and they're going to fill it. If we can't fill it ourselves, some others are going to fill it. So we have to get in touch and try and control. I don't mean control in in a dictator's type of way, but interact with governments and veterinary associations and legislators around, interact with them, get them to see the value of what we bring to the table, and be part of an organization or of a conglomerate or a group that regulates and controls the sale and the movement of dogs in the country. We should be leaders of that, not seen as the problem. We are a big part and can be a big part of the solution, provided we don't get too suspicious, because we can get suspicious of legislators, and we can get into that kind of niche hobby where we don't care, we have our own, we don't want to be involved with society. And this is a big debate, where whether we should be just for our own hobby and look after ourselves and to hell with the others, or what do we care, or whether you become a national institution where things are run through you, that you interact with the government departments, with veterinary associations to create good practice, and then gradually build up a relationship with them, so that down the line, when things come, like for instance the Bracknell breeds, where there's a close cooperation, a negotiation, a worked out plan for a development or future or adjustment of a breed that is kind of agreed and worked out and interacted well, and that you're respected as an organization for what you do and what you do. So that's a bit rambling, I know, but that's in general really my...
Do you feel that a lot of this, where puppy farmers have an easier time, because sometimes pedigree breeders are too fussy about where our puppies go, to the extent that we become a little bit elitist in who we sell our dogs to? And so because there's a demand there, people are going to fill the supply with substandard dogs purely because of that.
I do. You see, there's a big problem there, and yes, if people are dedicated and they do all the tests that you kind of we ask for them, and the hip scores and the checking for this and hearing and eyes and so on, that comes with a lot of expense and ultimately the cost is going to be dear. The puppy mill guy does nothing, just makes a dog to a bitch, has it, gets registered, and just sells it at no extra cost. He's obviously going to come in a lot cheaper, and unless the public can see benefit in what you do and what we do, and that's a matter of PR, public relations, and getting the message out and creating a gold standard of breeding that society can recognize and becomes a kind of a badge of honor. Oh no, I got my dog from an assured breeder. The big hero now at the moment is, my dog is a rescue dog. That's the big badge of courage. You know, we want to get to the stage where people should say, well, my dog is a Kennel Club registered breeder dog, and that becomes something. And the latest one in Ireland too is a port puppy. This is dogs that are confiscated at Dublin Port being brought out to England, so by the department here. So that's a new buzz thing in the inner crowd here now. Oh no, I have a port puppy. And so this is the thing. It's all public relations. A lot of it is not getting the message out and not interacting and being too standoffish and not letting people understand you.
Yeah. These port puppies are pedigrees, or are they crossbreds?
Now hold on. They will have papers, but they could be anything. They could be the Irish Times. You know what I mean? They won't be, and they usually are not microchipped, because with microchipping comes a traceback and identification to the owner and responsibility. So that's really what. So they're usually not. Up to recently, it's okay. It's legal, or it's law now in England that dogs must be microchipped. But up to 2 years ago, it wasn't. So with the result, and that's why Ireland has somewhat of a reputation. We, for over 20 years now, have insisted on microchip identification for all dogs we register. So commercial puppy farmers here would just not do that. They wouldn't pay that money. They wouldn't do it, because accountability comes with identification. So they were sending their dogs into Dublin Port, into Wales, and the people over in UK, unscrupulous people, were just giving pedigrees to them, just writing out pedigrees to them, because there's no physical identification to tie the dogs to the paperwork. So they would just send in paperwork to the Kennel Club UK and get pedigrees for them all and just give them to these pups with. And that's why really that trade existed. Like we as the Kennel Club took the hit by insisting on microchip identification, but the Kennel Club UK left it voluntary and didn't come into line really for 2 years ago. So it created a market, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we do. All right, favorite chocolate?
Black Magic Orange.
Wow. Okay. Two strange things or habits which people do which annoys you.
Right, that one caught me a bit too soon. I hate if I'm at a meeting, okay, and I've been at a lot of meetings, and I know you have too. So I think all you people who are involved, even in clubs, one thing I hate is somebody beside me wrapping their nails on the table all the time like this, or jigging their leg under the table. That really irritates me. It distracts me, and I can't concentrate. That's one little thing that annoys me. And people who just burst in on other people's companies. They just
Okay.
kind of act as if you're not talking. And probably the other thing is people who come to you and get into conversation with you and then don't bother listening to what you're saying. And you know they're not, but they still want to be there as if they're talking to you. But in actual fact, they're looking into the distance somewhere, and you know that they're not really listening to what you're saying. It's a bit like Homer Simpson, you know. Blah, 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 blah. Why did they come over in the first place if they don't want to talk to you?
Do you use social media socially, or are you just more of a lurker to observe what goes on?
No, I'm not really a lurker because, and okay, listen, when we all started, and I'm really only Facebook. So my grandson tells me that's for old people now, Facebook. But unfortunately, that's really the only one I can use, and I know how to use fairly well. I use it really for communication
Okay.
and for information. I'm not really voyeuristic because I think once you go down that road and start to go in and check out and things, you end up in a blithering idiot because you're taking on board everything everyone says. And I really can't understand that people get into long drawn out some of these sites where they get into long drawn conversations, you know, and they're answering each other back, and it's all getting distracted because the language doesn't mean what it actually says, and it just gets a disaster. And the other thing is a pet hate of mine on that is those who went to the copy and paste university and who have a degree in fame by association.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you think about that, and you'll understand the people that I mean. I really,
Absolutely.
really, the fact that other people think these are kind of the brain of Britain amazes me when it's just all copy and paste and bullshit, you know.
Okay. What chore do you hate doing?
Wallpapering.
Wallpapering. Okay.
I am absolutely hopeless at wallpaper. I just can't do it. No matter what, I could tile the floor. I paint is no problem. All of those things. Was reasonably good, really active at that. But wallpapering is just a disaster. I would sooner paint for 3 days than wallpaper for a half a day.
And apart from the current COVID-19 situation, what's a global issue that concerns you?
I do. Well, the climate is an obvious one, right? That there's no continuity and no general agreement about the climates and how we're interacting with the climate. I do think that if one thing positive, this COVID-19, maybe it has actually drawn attention to the climate, but just by accident, I think this has happened, which in a way I think is a good thing. As
Yeah.
regards to the world, the lack of patience.
Yeah.
Everyone wants everything. When you want it now, what do you want? Everything. When do you want it now? There's that thing, and I think we've reared a generation. This I must sound like an old fart here now, but I think we've reared a generation which kind of their expectation is so high, and they generally think it's their right, and they don't seem to think that, well, no, things don't always work out, and you have to make things happen. You have
Yeah.
responsibility. And I listen. I may be peculiar, but my thing is, I think it's their heroes, and this is really. Some people are going to hate this. I blame Harry Potter.
Why?
If Harry Potter, who is a hero for so many young people nowadays, if Harry Potter came into my playground in my class when I was going to school with his little wand in his hand, I know what would have happened that.
So
Ours were all He-Man and Superman and the Hulk. And but I think that, the lack of direction is probably our fault too, that we don't really give enough direction to the younger people. We don't make the effort. We just kind of abandon them to schools and to institutions and to organizations. And we don't really, family-wise, keep them close enough and give them a direction. Too busy living our own lives.
Sean, the one thing I think that you guys do successfully, or the Irish Kennel Club do, from the time that I was there and I saw when I judged there, was that there are a lot of young people involved. Now, go across the channel and it's not the same case, in my humble opinion. What do you think you guys have done to encourage so much of young people to stay in what some would consider an old fart sport?
Yeah, I think probably we're a small country, and listen, if you travel more than 3.5 hours in any direction, you're in the sea in Ireland. So it's very easy and very confined to get around. And there's no real professional handlers in Ireland, none. So it's usually families who have it. And it is considered, if you go to most of our shows, a lot of them are families at the shows, not just the terrier man, whose wife never was at a show in her life. It's usually the family, a husband and wife, and probably the kids. And then the kids usually take an interest in it and are involved at home, because the kennels are none of them are commercial kennels. They're small family kennels. So I think just in general, they feel involved, and we do involve the kids a lot. We have a good, strong junior handlers association. And even at that, in the ring, you see quite a lot of young people showing. So I'd like to think we have a magic wand, but I think it's more a set of the structure of people in the hobby in Ireland. And the fact, I think, that we allow people to have an input. People have an affiliation to the Kennel Club. We're accessible. They see us all the time. We're not just a face, down the road. They see us.
So it's more still a family thing. It's all
I would
about.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And do you feel that there are still hardcore breeders as opposed to trophy chasers in Ireland? People who are after top dog, top this, top that, but are not really breeders. I mean, they're exhibitors, what I class as exhibitors purely. Or do you think there's still very much a lot of good families and kennels that are after breeding good dogs?
There are, and I think this would be a big concern of mine, is excuse me, the lack of recognition for the value of breeders. That would be a big hobby of mine, and I do think that we really don't give them enough credit, especially those who do it in a really respectful way and a proper way, and they are the future. Listen, if people stop breeding dogs, we're going to be left at the puppy farmers going, and that's where we will get. If you turn this into a hobby when it's all about just handlers and exhibitors and handlers and judges and administrators, there has to be a product. There has to be a product, and the product is the dog. And unless the dog is being produced in a proper manner and in proper type and an established type, what we were talking about earlier on, breed type, you do need dedicated people in that. A little hobby horse of mine is that, don't get me wrong, I'm judging, I'm an all-breeds judge, and I'm delighted to get this opportunity, but I think breed judging should be the key element. The judging of the breed, and that should be the big award. And I think the biggest accolade you can get is winning in your breed. The rest are just things for the exhibition. It's not a competition anymore. It's just exhibition, and that shows in the winners of groups and in best in show winners, where all breeds judges. And now I'm in this category, so it's not as if I'm criticizing others. Where they really eventually, when they're going in for groups and all that, they're really looking for performance and outline. And really type is sometimes lost in group wins. So because you have the best type in your breed wouldn't necessarily mean you'd be do well in the group, because some breeds are kind of have this great advantage in groups. They just look flashy because of their movement and their style and the fact that you can trim them. Things like Bracco Italiano is an obvious one. You know, their extended trot just looks so attractive. So even a kind of an ordinary one of them will always do well in the group. Australian Shepherds, they look flashy going around, even an ordinary one again. Kerry Blue, my own breed even, because you can trim it to whatever shape you like. Once you get one that will move around fairly sharpish and you have the right trim on them, chances are, we had one time in Ireland some years ago, 4 different Kerry Blues won Best in Show.
Wow.
4 different in a small island like ours. So there are breeds that have an advantage. So I would revert to the breed type. Yes, we need people who breed to type. We need them to constantly remind us. And I think if we could develop the breed seminars on breeding and breed type, that would be an area I think we could put more work into going forward and giving more recognition.
Okay. A very, very quick question, because we are running out of time, but I just want to know, do you feel that if judging stopped at breed level and didn't go any further, would it increase the number of people participating in our sport or decrease?
No, I think it would decrease. I think it would decrease. I think maybe down the line we should consider what some of the Mediterranean countries do, and not necessarily this exact format that they do, but they have a mandatory point, and it can be at a breed club, or it can be a specific high quality, high level show. So I would think maybe there should be something more significant for your title in the breed, or some recognition of a breed, a champion in the breed, a breed champion. And that a big accolade could be from a Kennel Club point of view or for the FC point of view, that the biggest thing you wanted to get was you were nominated by your Kennel Club or by the FCI as the top breeder or that top dog in that breed. And not have it just counting up for best in shows, anything like that. All to do it only results in your breed.
Perfect. Do you have a favorite TV show?
Kathy controls the remote control in our house, right? so I don't really have I just go with that. I mean, that's one area I just leave to Kathy. But I'm not particularly. I like some of the chat shows. I like Graham Norton. I like his chat show.
Yeah,
he's a reverend, and he always has good guests on, and the interaction. He knows when to act and when to interact and to allow them to carry on, and I find it very entertaining. From film point of view, my favorite film of all time would be Gladiator.
Okay, that's a good one.
All of the things, it's like the FCI, plenty of betrayal, right? Plenty of realigning yourself into another country, right? Thrown to the lions, right? Sexual interaction. Where do you go? It is the FCI. So that's why I see a lot of what's going on in the. There you are.
I love it. I love it.
By the way, in case anyone's getting too serious or too precious, it's a joke, okay?
So, Sean, who has it easier, men or women?
I think men.
Okay.
I think men have it easy. I think women have the one thing, those who wish to be mothers, they have that great opportunity to actually create life inside them. And I think that's something that men will obviously never experience. And it must be amazing, even though I know it's difficult and I'm not underrating it, but I think that must be a great personal thing. You feel so much part of creation. Whereas the input men have in that thing is not really all that significant. It's like putting money in the meter, isn't it? You get gas.
Absolutely.
But, I think, and women, they're more complicated than men. They're more, men are kind of hunters and gatherers by their nature. Women are more complicated. They're deeper. They feel. They're more sensitive. And men have the ability, I think, just to shake things off more so than women. And just like, so what? And they move on a little bit. And I think that's because they were meant to be the hunters. So and they were meant to mate. So they had to be a little bit indiscriminate and just a bit bullheaded.
Okay, 3 things you take with you if you're stuck on a desert island.
I won't say my smartphone. Right? 3 things. Right. I suppose, yeah. I like music. I'd like some music, ability to take music, and I'm very varied in my music taste. So if I could take an MP3 that I would have a lot of my favorite just music on, that would be kind of the first thing I think I would take.
What is the type of music? What is the type of music that you like?
I'm very varied, actually. I like light opera, and I'm really very varied, and I can even go as far as some rap as well. So
Wow.
I can see, man, I see music as if it gives me an emotion from the chords and the playing of it, like Gabriel's oboe, the theme from The Mission, that one, that can sense something in you. You can feel it actually in you. Or even a song that kind of tells a good story and is well crafted and well worded, like Paul Brady's The Island, things like that. And then some of the classics, just the pure absolute beauty of the music and the sense it gives you. So I'm very varied in my taste in music. I wouldn't just to one genre. Other things, what would I take with sunblock? I tell you why, because I can't take the sun at all on my face, right? If I take the sun on my forehead, really, every time I go, I have to cover it up, even a small amount. I break out in bumps here on my forehead, not just chin. And I'm like Mr. Worf out of Star Trek. So there's some of the things I would take with me.
Okay, describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
As a teenager, adventurous.
Okay.
Cheeky.
Okay.
Loyal.
Are you sure that's not what you're describing yourself as today?
Well, I am a teenager still.
There you
Listen,
go.
You must remember, growing old is a fact. Growing up is an option.
I love it. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. For me, sunrise is the start of things. Sunset is the finish.
Okay. Have you ever worked as a barman?
I did, yes, I did in London when I was 18. I did for about 3 weeks only.
Okay. Any tattoos or piercings?
No, I never got around to that. No, I was never that type of a wild thing, or I never saw the benefit of it. As a matter of fact, you know me, I actually don't like anything. I don't wear any rings or watch or necklaces or anything like that. I don't like any accoutrements, on me.
What's your middle name?
Anthony. Tony. Anthony, yeah.
And who's one person who always cheers you up?
One person who always cheers me up. Actually, probably Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah, Kathy.
Okay. Name 2 things.
Despite especially when she's trying not to.
Even more so, probably. Name 2 things on your bucket list.
I would like to jump on a parachute.
Wow. Okay, you're an adventurous.
I'd like to do that, and probably deep sea diving.
Wow. Okay, those are 2 good ones.
Yeah.
What's your biggest pet peeve with exhibitors whilst you're judging?
A couple of things. I hate them constantly feeding the dogs with bait and lumps of liver. And I was just saying to my son Ross the other day that I'm glad I'm not young nowadays and going out with any junior handlers or handlers. Imagine going to the cinema and starting a little bit of groping around and coming up with handfuls of liver and chicken legs and bait. kill the moment. So that's one thing that really irritates me. And the other thing is rough handling. I hate to see, and I usually pull them up on it if I see anything like that, like over. I don't mind you have to correct a dog or control it, that's fine, but any type of excessive dragging and pulling just for the sake of getting a dog to perform a silhouette, you know, for a judge, I've no time for that at all. And I would be hard on exhibitors and downgrade them. Yeah. Even with a great dog, if I saw that.
Absolutely, and so it should be done. Can you recall the funniest thing that's happened in your ring whilst you were judging?
Yeah, there's one, and it's really about Kathy and me. Okay, so we were judging in Croatia, and they told us at the start of the show there was this man, and he was going to be a student judge with Kathy for some breeds and me for another. So he went with Kathy in the morning, and it turned out he was a bulldog man, and in bulldogs for 20 years, right? Okay. That's the last thing Kathy needed, because she's coming from a terrier background. So the last thing you need is to be instructing a man who's 20 years in an exaggerated breed like a bulldog. So anyway, off she goes with him. And everything's going fine, and I'm in my ring, and we break for lunch. And I find out that the guy actually he's a plastic surgeon, right? So we get out to lunch, and Kathy comes in, and I said, how are you getting on with the guy? And she says, oh, he's very nice. He's all right. You know, he's 20 years in bulldogs. Here am I telling him about his breed. You know, it's a bit strange, but he's nice enough. I said, do you know he's a plastic surgeon? She says, is he? So she said, oh, great. I'll have a chat with him when I go back. I might be able to get maybe some little filler or complex here and there. So Kathy went back anyway to the ring, and she says, I believe you're a plastic surgeon. Oh, yes, he says. During the war, I used to get the prisoners whose legs were exploded by the mines and put them back on their... Kathy did not wait to get her leg put back in her head. So that was funny. That just...
What's one thing about the Irish dog world that makes you proud to be Irish?
I think there's an air of, first of all, it's not commercial. There are no professional handlers, and it's not too commercialized. Yet, I think at the same time, they really come up to a very high level. Their breeding and their presentation and their showing, and even the shows themselves have got better over the years as well. But the exhibitors' presentation, training of the dogs, breeding, is of a high standard for such a small country with not much opportunity for interacting. Like, you know, in Europe, you can drive to so many countries just to use a dog at stud, but here in Ireland, it's complicated. You have to import them, or you have to travel. So I'm very proud of the level that they've had. And I think a lot of judges who come here to judge, they like the quality of the dogs and the whole way they're exhibited and the profession of them.
And in your opinion, Sean, will Brexit affect the flow of dogs across?
I'm not. It's a difficult comment to make about Brexit, how it is going to interact. We have a specific problem. We have a specific problem in Ireland, as you know, with the border, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and whether or not there'll be a border here. Okay, it looks like there probably won't be a border between North and South in Ireland, and Boris had promised the Northern Ireland people that there would be no border between them and the UK, the rest of the UK, as he would put it. But in actual fact, now he's changed his mind again, and he says there will be at ports, airports and ferry ports in Northern Ireland. They will have a customs post there between there and Northern Ireland. Wow. So listen, who can say, but it's amazing that Northern Ireland now seems to have more in common with Southern Ireland than it ever had.
Wow.
And listen, as far as the dog people are concerned, we are an All-Ireland Kennel Club, and the people in the north of Ireland are 1/3 of our entries at our shows. A lot of them register dogs first time with us. Some of them do UK as well, but that's their choice. And they're very valued from our point of view. We were always an All-Ireland Kennel Club right from the start. And as a matter of fact, our first president was, he was a Northern Ireland Presbyterian and a High Court judge. who actually favoured retaining the union with Britain, even though he set up the Kennel Club to break away from them. So listen, it just goes to show you the things dogs and our sport. There were so many different people involved in the foundation of the Kennel Club, from Republicans to Unionists to everything, that they just put one thing aside while they got on with the dog. So the dog thing can be a great place for people.
Okay. And what have you learned about yourself during lockdown? What's something that surprised you about yourself that you've learned?
I've learned that I'm not missing things as much as I thought.
Okay.
I thought I'd be really going mad missing things, but I'm not really. And I have to say, now maybe it'll all change when things go back and I just become the same old guy. But I think things that were part of the structure, what I was doing, and that I thought was something that had to happen every week, I don't think necessarily that's going to go back to that again. I think I've realigned and revisited them. The interaction with my family in particular has gone to a new level, including the Zoom meetings. We have 2 regular shows each week. We have a quiz, which there's 4 teams, all family, all my sons, and we have teams. One night you're the quiz master, and the other teams all play against it, and it's so funny. It's amazing the interaction, and we just didn't have that beforehand. And because of the Zoom, and because it's in ridiculous circumstances, everyone's just standing up to the mark. This weekend, actually, we're the hosts of it, so we have to set the questions. So we have to. It's fancy dress too, and it's mainly Eurovision.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm dressing as Conchita, right? Rise like a phoenix.
Okay, you've got to do me a favor and take pictures of this. I would love to see. All right, just sort of in wrapping up, Sean, do you have a favorite saying or a motto?
Yeah, yes. Excuse me. I suppose the one that amuses me most, and it's so true in life, is never approach a bull from the front, a horse from behind, or an idiot from any direction.
I love it. I'm going to have to remember this. And final question. What is the one sentence you'd like to see in your obituary about your time in the dog world?
I told you I was sick. No. No, I'd say I'd say probably he was a good dog man who made a difference. That'd do me.
Excellent. Sean, that's brought us to the end of the interview. Thank you so much for your time. I've really had fun and I've laughed so much. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And thank you for sharing with us and being so candid. I really appreciate your time.
It's a blast. Enjoyed it.
Okay, take care, and we'll see you on the other side of this.
Yeah, great. And just a big stay safe, all guys out there. Listen, we're all in the same boat, right? You might say, as Oscar Wilde, is we're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. So look up.
Great advice. Take care, Sean.
Bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.